السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأصلي وأسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد. Ahbab Mustafa alayhi salatu wassalam, it's another Sunday morning, which means we will continue studying the 40 hadith that we have selected from the collection of Imam Nawawi's Arba'een. Today's hadith is narrated عن al-Mu'mineen عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أحدث في أمرنا هذا ما ليس منه فهو رد. رواه مسلم، رواه البخاري ومسلم. This hadith is narrated by Imam Bukhari and Muslim on the authority of al-Mu'mineen, the mother of the believers, Sittina Aisha radiyallahu anha, who said that the Rasul alayhi salatu wassalam said, whoever innovates something into this matter of ours, i.e. Islam, which is not from it, will have it rejected. Meaning, whoever innovates and brings something new to this religion of Islam that is not originally from it, will have it rejected, or it will be rejected. And the hadith is collected by Imam Bukhari and Muslim. Let's first talk about the narrator of the hadith, al-Mu'mineen, the mother of the believers, Sittina Aisha radiyallahu anha. Sittina Aisha radiyallahu anha is from the mothers of the believers, meaning she is the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, and she is a Siddiqa bint al-Siddiq. She is the truthful one, the daughter of the truthful one. She is from among the most learned in the Ummah of Islam, from among the followers of Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. It is well known that she narrated many ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and she was a scholar par excellence in her own regard. She was not only a scholar of religious matters, it is well documented that she was a scholar and an avid student of medical sciences. She was very interested in medicine and the healing of the human body, and she, learned as much as she could about that particular science. We know that, she was the youngest of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, and she lived with the Prophet ﷺ from a young age when she married him ﷺ until the Prophet ﷺ died. And part of that perhaps had a huge impact positively on the Ummah of Islam, that a young, brilliant lady lived with the Prophet ﷺ as his wife, and she asked all the good questions, and she retained all of the information that was presented to her, and she was able to preserve the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, preserve his life and his habits and his practices and his opinions and his discussions, and then share that with the Ummah after the death of our beloved Messenger ﷺ. It's well known that among the Sahaba, even among the men, they would consult al-Mu'mineen Sittina Aisha for fatawa. They would visit her and ask her questions about the religion, and even from among the tabi'een, men and women, would study with her, and learn from her wisdom and from her knowledge. In this particular narration, in this particular hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, it's self-explanatory, it's pretty clear. The Prophet ﷺ says, anybody who innovates and brings something new into this deen, it will be rejected. And this is what we believe as Muslims, that the religion of Islam is, the divine way of life. It's the divine religion that Allah prescribed, and His Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, he never left any stone unturned. Meaning, and the Prophet ﷺ said this with his own mouth, anything that will take you closer to Jannah, I told you about it. Anything that you need to know to protect yourself from Jahannam, I told you about it. Then everything that we need from a religious perspective, Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam has given it to us. There is that ayah in the Quran, Surah Al-Ma'idah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا. On this day I have completed this matter of religion for you, I have perfected my favor upon you, and I am happy with Islam as your religion. So the religion of Islam was complete with the death of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Everything that Allah wanted us to know and practice was revealed. What is the definition of an innovation in Islam? What's the definition of a bid'ah in Islam? By the way, the Arabic word for innovation is bid'ah. Now, a bid'ah in Islam, an innovation in Islam, is something that is introduced newly in a matter of spirituality or religion. There are many innovations in the world around us. Islam has no problem with it. I know this might seem redundant to state, but it's important to make it clear. Islam has nothing against any technological innovation or any, new development in our life that can better the quality of our life or make things easier for us. So Islam is not against the use of the internet. Islam is not against the use of modern transportation such as automobiles and trains and other things, planes, etc. Islam is not against, electricity. Islam has nothing against any new invention or innovation in life. Where Islam has a problem is with things that are introduced into matters of deen, things that are introduced into matters of religion, right? So if somebody was to introduce a new law into Islam and say this is obligatory, we will say that this new idea has to be rejected. If somebody introduces a new law into Islam that legalizes what was previously prohibited, again, we would have to say here there's going to be a problem, and we will have to reject that. It's worth noting, and I mentioned this here, and this morning's halaqah is very short, but I want to take a moment to mention something, because in the spirit of being one community and one jama'ah, we want to think proactively and critically and try our best to deeply understand the reality of things that we study and we observe. When we talk about innovations, when we talk about bid'ah in religion, there's two philosophies, right? There's two ways of looking at it. On one hand, there's one approach, which is that anything new in the religion, absolutely anything that is done in the religion that wasn't done in the time of the Prophet ﷺ is going to be something that is blameworthy and should be rejected. This is one opinion and one take, and it is, something that people repeat and reiterate over and over, trying to protect the original, religion that Muhammad ﷺ preached. Meaning, if there's something that people are going to do and it wasn't done in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, then this has to be rejected. This is one philosophy. However, there is another philosophy which looks at things a little bit differently, and that is that there are practices that stem from the religion. They might not have been exactly present in the life of the Prophet ﷺ, but they are of benefit to the Ummah, and they stem from the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, and the argument is that there is no harm in them and there's actually benefit in them. Let's give examples and things will become clear. It is well known, and nobody can debate or argue this, that in the life of the Prophet ﷺ, as an example, Salatul Taraweeh 8 or 20 rak'at after Salatul Isha in the masjid, in Jama'ah, was not a practice. It's not something that the Prophet ﷺ did. It's not something that he prescribed. But today, you will find the entire Ummah is engaged in performing Salatul Taraweeh in the month of Ramadan. Is this a bid'ah or not? If you use the approach that anything new that is practiced in the religion has to be rejected, then by definition, Salatul Taraweeh is an innovation. It's something that is blameworthy. Nobody should practice it. It has to be rejected. But, as we all know, there is another way of looking at it, which is what? That night prayers, is something that the Prophet ﷺ legislated. It's something that Allah talks about in the Quran, to pray at night. Not only that, it is something that is highly praiseworthy. There are many ahadith that specifically talk about the benefit and the virtue of praying at night, especially in the month of Ramadan. Those who fast in the day and who pray at night. All of these ahadith speaking about the virtues of these actions, especially in the month of Ramadan. Then this is something that is stemming from the religion. Its final form, as we do it today, to pray 8 rak'at and witr after Isha in the masjid with an Imam leading us, maybe this is not what the Prophet ﷺ did in his lifetime. But the concept of night prayers and Salatul Layl is established and was preached by the Prophet ﷺ. Not only that, if you look in the life of the Prophet ﷺ, you will find that on a couple of occasions, he did lead congregational prayers during the night, not after Isha, of course, during the late hours of the night. He used to do it a couple of times, and then obviously he stopped, and he was clear about why he stopped. He didn't want to make it something that will become mandatory for his followers. And he didn't want to burden his ummah, so he stopped that habit to pray, congregational prayers at night in the masjid. This is a good textbook example of looking at something in the religion that from one side somebody can look and say this is a bid'ah, but if you use the alternative definition that as long as something is stemming from the religion, as long as it's something that is already taught from the religion, even if the final form of it is slightly different, it cannot be something that is blameworthy and ridiculed as a bid'ah or as an innovation in religion. There are many other examples. I don't want to go through all the examples, and I cannot go through all the examples. It's time prohibiting. I share this with you just to open our eyes. One of our goals here in the masjid as we spend more and more time together, and for those of you who join us regularly online, one of the things that we try to achieve together is to build an open mind, because it's very, very healthy. To build an open mind that's able to see certain things from one perspective and to see other things from another perspective, and to understand that there are different ways of looking at things. One of the benefits of this is it will breed tolerance. If I can understand why you do what you do, then perhaps I can be more tolerant and more respectful of you and your choices and your opinions, right? And this is very, very important, because the alternative to this, and I'll close with this, the alternative to this is that we look at somebody and say, he's intentionally doing a bid'ah, he must be a horrible Muslim, he must be a horrible person. Most likely he's going to Jahannam and he knows it, but may Allah help everyone. This cannot be the attitude of the Muslim. It's not healthy, it's not beneficial, it will get us nowhere. Then what is the solution? The solution is to broaden our horizons, to try to understand things a little bit better, to try to be familiar with why people do what they do, try to be understanding of people's reasoning, and then eventually be respectful and be tolerant of differences. It's very, very healthy. Not everything in Islam is black and white. This statement some people don't like to hear, but it's a reality. Not everything in Islam is black and white. There is a spectrum of opinions for many different things. There are things in our religion that are black and white, and we have no room to differ about. As an example, Allah is one. There's no room to differ about that. Our Qibla is Mecca. There's no second option. Muhammad ﷺ is the last and final messenger of Allah. There is no room for a secondary opinion. Nobody can have a different perspective. These things are established in our deen, and there is no second option. However, for many other matters of fiqh, for many other matters of practical day-to-day life as a Muslim, there is a spectrum of opinions that the Muslim scholars have developed and adopted. And I'm not going to know all of them, you're not going to know all of them. But at least we should be familiar with being able to acknowledge and appreciate that somebody may have a different opinion than us, and it may stem from a valid interpretation of a hadith, or a valid interpretation of an ayah of the Quran, or a valid analysis of some of the A'immah of the Salaf as an example, whether that's from the A'immah of the Madhahib or those who came before them or after them, then there is room for us to acknowledge that some people might have a different opinion. In any case, if something is completely alien to the religion, if something is introduced into the religion and it's brand spanking new, then we have no need for it and it will be rejected. There is a statement that the A'immah who came before us used to make, and this can teach us a nice lesson, that what was enough for the Muslims who came in the first days of this ummah is enough for those who will come in the later days of this ummah. What does that mean? That means that the Islam that was practiced by the first few generations of Muslims, it was good for them, and believe you me, it will be good for us. We don't need to add anything to the practice of Islam itself. We don't need to introduce new ideas to how to worship Allah in our modern times, because the Islam that worked 1,000 years ago, it will work today and it will work 1,000 years in the future. With that, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from those who listen, and when they listen, they understand, and when they understand, they apply the best of what they understood. Jazakumullahu khairan wa ahsanallahu ilaykum. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.